Now join palms. And you repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? As you're here for the first time, what brings you here? I just see hands in the back, so anyone who wants to shout out. What brings you here for the first time? Anyone that was attached to one of those hands that went in the air?
Other family members.
Other family? It's always fun.
Here.
They're here.
Yes.
Did they come with you or they just sent you?
They're here with us.
Nice. It's always fun when family brings family. What'd they tell you?
Well, there's so much there in
Nice.
no big deal.
Good. Good. So it's easy. What else? First time?
My friend Bobby.
Yeah. And what were you promised?
Well, I meditate, and I live in India, so she knew it. She said,
Yeah.
"Come with me."
Good. Well, welcome. Anyone else? First time? Yeah. And another hand in the back.
I'm here with two of my really good friends.
Nice. And what brings you here?
The experience,
Yeah.
yes.
So I heard a really loud sigh, and then I heard the experience. So I'll take the sigh as the answer. Yeah. Anyone else want to share? Those of you who keep coming back, jokes aside, why do you show up? Yeah.
It's a different sense of peace that I haven't felt before. And you are funny. I know the humor combined with the peace is kind of just speaks to me.
Yeah. Thank you. What else? Why show up? Those of you who keep coming back, yeah.
This makes me better. I don't know how.
Yeah. I don't know either. But that's good. What else? Why show up? Yeah.
I like how it resets my mind.
Yeah, the reset. Mind can get carried away at times throughout the day. Yeah. Perspective. Yeah.
Grounding.
Grounding. Anybody else?
Slowing down the hamster wheel.
Slowing down the hamster wheel. It'd be better just to get off of the hamster wheel. If we can get off of the hamster wheel.
Like, eventually.
Baby steps, right?
Baby steps.
Baby hamster steps. Which, I mean, ironically and truthfully enough, the wheel of samsara, the cycle of rebirth, as the Buddha taught, right? Getting ourselves out of that cycle, Groundhog Day, waking up and having it no longer be Groundhog Day. So I said, as I always share, Groundhog Day, fight. For those of you who are brand new, if you want to learn about Buddhism, Groundhog Day, Fight Club, and the Matrix. And you're good to go. Those 3 moves will tell you everything you need to know about Buddhist teachings. And they're quite funny as well. But yeah, the Groundhog Day, we wake up every day and we're just stuck. we're stuck on that wheel, stuck in that cycle, and often doing the same thing over and over and over again. And as Einstein said, same thing over and over and over again, and expecting a different result. The definition of insanity. And very often we go through our days and we're just stuck. It just repeats day in and day out. And then we come to things like this at 7 o'clock at night or wherever you go, for this type of stuff, if you do. And then we wake up tomorrow and then we just do the same darn thing over again. And then you can't figure out why you keep feeling stressed out and anxious and burnt out and sad and depressed and lonely and scared at nighttime. Well, it's from what you did all day. So the practice is to wake up and treat, right when you wake up, just like coming to meditation, yoga, whatever it is you do for your own spiritual journey, if you have one, start that the moment you wake up. Don't power through your day doing the same stuff that exhausted you and beat you up and wore you out to get here. Because once tonight's done, then what? Then you're going to go home, if you go home, wherever you are, go to sleep and wake up the next day and just repeat. Same thing over and over again. So, for me, the beauty of this practice is just using it as a mirror to reflect on what changes do I need to make in my life. That's it. And when you actually set down this idea of what everybody else is doing wrong, what everybody else should be doing, what they're not doing, what they're supposed to do, what you wish they'd done, when you set that down and you focus on what am I doing? What do I need to change? That is it. And if you are brand new to this practice, that's really what any sort of spiritual practice, Buddhism, whatever you want to call it, meditation, whatever, any religious practice, we have to change. And change is scary for many people. But suffering sucks. So if you can overcome this fear of change, you can suffer less. But it does require work. So with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin, for those who are brand new. To those who are joining virtually, welcome, glad you're here. We have a comment here. I show up because the second arrow is not fun. They used a different word, but I'm going to go with not fun. And, very nice. That's great. So glad you're all here virtually and in person. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. If you're on a bench or chair, same thing. Just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. It just means you need to move. If you have to cough, simply cough. If your phone rings, it's just life. And if you are brand new, you're not trying to empty your thoughts. You're not trying to go blank. You're not going to think nothing. Your mind will race. I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought or wake you up and bring you back to present moment. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness. quiet. Just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. Realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, but began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all you're working on is closing the gap to the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And the present moment, as we know, is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulty, challenges. This is life. This is learning to be with life as it arises and not trying to escape from each present moment, which is where many of us have spent much of our lives. Running to this, running to that, turning to this, turning to that. This practice is sitting with life as it is. And that doesn't mean life is pleasant. But just because life might not be pleasant or peaceful doesn't mean your mind can't be pleasant and peaceful. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. And that's it. That just repeats. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to life around us, things get simpler. But it's not easy. And we are challenged every single day. So we keep practicing. This isn't a 6-week course. It's not 3 months and then all of a sudden you got stuff figured out and then you move on to what's next. I've been calling this Intro to Buddhism and Meditation for 18 years. And if I'm alive another 18 years, I'll be calling it Intro to Buddhism and Meditation. I don't know what anything more than Intro to Buddhism and Meditation would be. Because the very first thing the Buddha ever taught is hard enough. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. In every moment, in all times, with all people. That's it. And the mind wants to say, well, what about those people? What about those things? Well, this practice isn't about those people or those things. This practice is about you. And can you cultivate kind thoughts, kind words, and kind actions, regardless of what's going on around you? That has never changed. Life was just as hectic and complicated 2,500 years ago when the Buddha taught the same message, to my understanding. You have a choice every day to make your mind a mess or not. That choice is yours. Thus, the meditation practice is important because it helps you begin to settle the mind. And with a mind that's a little more settled, a little calmer, a little gentler, then we take that into the world. And please work hard to create change. I think the Buddha was a very rebellious, activist type of person. He roamed around for 45 years, teaching people to be kind and compassionate. He wasn't just sitting under a tree doing nothing. He roamed for 6 years the base of the Himalayan mountains. He then sat for 21 days under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, India, figured out why we suffer, and then got to it. He spent 45 years teaching that, and then he died. But the question is, as you're roaming around trying to create change, can you create change with love and kindness and compassion in your heart? Or are you filled with hatred and anger and rage? And I hate to tell you folks, but that's on you. And living with hatred and rage and anger in your heart is no fun. I spent a majority of my life that way. Not pleasant. And the only one who suffered was me. Well, and everybody who had to deal with it. So make sure people don't have to deal with you while you're suffering. So with that, I'll pause. Just open up to questions. For me, really just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And again, to those joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hello in the chat box there. If you have any questions, you can put them there. I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions. Yeah.
I used to have this motorcycle.
Say again?
I used to have this motorcycle ridiculously fast. And I crashed it. Didn't get hurt. Well, my wife thinks it happened for a reason. I don't know what the reason would be, but he tries to keep me alive. But what do you think of that? Like, do you think things happen for a reason, or everything is as it should be, or is life just random as it comes?
So to paraphrase the question, for those who didn't hear it, your comment and question was, you used to have a ridiculously fast motorcycle. You crashed it. Your wife thinks you crashed it for a reason. And you said maybe the reason is because it kept you alive, keeps you alive. And so you want to know if things happen for a reason, or is everything just random? So I'm paraphrasing your question and comment. And I'll tell you this from the Buddhist lens, Buddhist perspective. First and foremost, you know me well enough to know I'm not taking sides between you and your wife. So if you're looking for confirmation one way or the other to go back and say, Jeff said this, don't. Just starting there. Do not use me as the basis of your next argument. But with that being said, it's important to understand that, yes, this idea of things happening for a reason is a very, I say modern just because everybody does it. And I say new age because new age people tend to say it. But it is a very modern new age way of thinking, and just kind of this philosophical, psychological way to say things happen for a reason, right? From a Buddhist perspective, that's not the teaching. right? Again, this is not a feather in your cap to go back and say anything. I'm glad you don't have your motorcycle. So regardless of what the reason was, yes, I will always side with your wife. I just want you to know that. I've met her. She's been here. For those who don't know, she's very happy that you are here all the time, and it's helped you. But to my point is, very often we want to say things happen for a reason. We are very good at justifying why things happen. And when bad things happen, we often want to give it some meaning and some reason to try to make it seem like, well, this is why that's happening. Now, when good things happen to you, do you spend all your time trying to figure out why the good things happen, or are you just taking your money and running, right? So you're happy when good things happen. You're not even trying to figure out why it happened. You're just glad it happened. When bad things happen, we want to spin it and justify it to make ourselves okay with it. And we all can relate to this in some area of our lives with something. Buddhist teachings ultimately is not about things happening because of them being good or bad or reasons. Things just happen. Period. Karma is the law of cause and effect. The word karma, you've heard me say this a million times, literally means action. We generate karma 3 ways: body, speech, mind. What we think, what we say, and what we do. This is how we generate karma. So the law of cause and effect, karma is not what goes around comes around. Karma is not getting what you deserve. Karma is not coming towards you. Karma is what we bring into the world. Every thought, every word, every action has an impact. So your karma is what caused you to crash your bike. I want to be very clear on this. By saying your karma caused you to crash your bike does not mean that you deserved it. Karma is action. If you didn't get on the bicycle, or on the bike, or bicycle, whatever, you wouldn't have crashed it. If I'm walking across the street right now, somebody comes and hits me with a car, we often want to say, what? That's their fault. We want to blame someone. We want to look at, did you deserve that to happen? Karma is not about deserving. Karma is not about blame. Karma is not about laws. Karma is not about justifications or rationales as to why things happen. Karma is literally just things happen based on our actions. If I did not walk across that street, I could not have been hit. So I'm equally as responsible for that thing happening. Again, not justify, not laws, not any of that stuff. But if I don't cross that street, I don't get hit by a car. Things just happen. However you want to spin them and justify them afterwards, great. But that's not, in essence, Buddhist practice. That's just our ways of being at peace with bad things when bad things happen. And I'm a big fan of psychologically, for those that need to do that, do that. It's a lot better to look at terrible things happening and try to make good from it. But the good thing that you're trying to make from it is not the reason it happened. You see the difference?
Yeah, for sure.
You're not riding a motorcycle anymore because you don't have a motorcycle. Which has nothing to do with the crash. You could have just as easily gone out and picked up a new motorcycle the next day. So you're not riding a motorcycle is because you don't have a motorcycle. That's why you're not on a motorcycle right now. And you're choosing not to be. That's another reason you're not on a motorcycle right now. And you're choosing not to be because you're recognizing, we look at healthy patterns, and this is not even about motorcycle anymore, but for you it is. We look at things that happen. We learn from things that have happened in the past. Staying present does not mean you're ignoring what has happened. Does not mean you're, closing your eyes to what has happened. If you put yourself in harmful situations and you keep getting hurt, stop putting yourself in harmful situations, unhealthy situations, toxic situations. You're the one who keeps putting yourself there. If you keep putting yourself on a motorcycle, and that's a metaphor for whatever that means to you right now sitting there, whatever in your life that you keep doing that is causing harm to you and others, you are the one who keeps getting on that motorcycle. Nobody else. No matter how many times you've crashed, you keep getting on it. And yet you can't figure out why you're miserable. Yeah.
What's a good way to react when someone puts the blame on you for their karmic action?
Well, it's 10 years, man. You're still longer than 10 years. You always want to blame them. You can't even ask a question without at the end saying their karmic actions. I know exactly what you mean. How long have you been asking? We've been here. I just want to put this into context so it doesn't seem like I'm being such a whatever to somebody. I am, but it's justified. See me justifying things. How long have you been asking these questions? We've been here 8 years. You've been for at least 10, 12 years. Okay? At the very end, you still want to spin it and make it about somebody else. Ask your question again without talking about somebody else.
How should I react when someone looks to put the blame on me?
Okay. That period. Great. Okay. How should you react when someone looks to put the blame on you? The first thing is to understand, have you ever put blame on other people? Sure. And when you do that, you are in what state of mind? Stressed, angry, unhealthy, sad, depressed, anxious, whatever it might be. You are suffering. And therefore, you're trying to throw blame onto other people. So when someone throws blame on you, the first thing you do is you have compassion for them because they are suffering. If they were not suffering, they wouldn't be doing it. But you're still looking to justify why it's okay for you to get angry at them. I know you don't want to see it that way, but that's all I see. You want justification for why it's okay for you to be angry at them. They are suffering. The ultimate response, the ultimate practice to me is they're suffering. And I'm going to have compassion. Your question is, how do you respond? Well, if you're not angry, how do you forget this situation? When you're not angry and you're in a good, happy, healthy mood, how do you respond to things usually? Calm. Okay. So when someone does what you're asking to you, you can remain calm by understanding and having empathy for this person who's in tremendous pain and suffering. But when you make it about you, which is what you're doing, because you're human and it's what we all do most of the time. So I'm not picking on you, I'm just looking at you, right? I'm picking on everyone in this room because we all do this at times, is we're making it about us. The practice of non-self, the Bodhisattva practice to, expect nothing from anyone ever. Do not expect people to be a certain way. See what is happening. And what is happening in this moment is this individual is suffering. And if you can empathize and feel their pain and suffering, there's no place for anger. You're only angry because you're not getting what you want. When you see and feel their suffering, the only response is compassion for their suffering. How can I be present with you? How can I help you with your pain and suffering right now? How can I help you understand this situation without throwing blame? But as soon as you make it about you, you suffer. And when you suffer, you get angry. And so your question again is, how do I stop myself from responding in a way that is coming from anger? And the practice is to not allow that anger to cultivate and arise to begin with, which is only going to happen when you have endless love and compassion for the individual suffering. Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese monks being tortured, said their greatest fear was losing compassion for those who were torturing them. That's the practice. Can we do that all the time or at all? No. But is that the practice? Yes. And when we're not there yet, then the next step is to recognize it's not about you. You don't need to, if you're not capable of just saying, okay, look, I love you, you're suffering, if that's just going to make things worse, then you just recognize, hey, this isn't about me. And you listen. And you remain silent. again, healthy, safe, all that kind of stuff. When I say remain silent, I'm not saying necessarily that silence is always the best thing, but in the situation that you're asking about, just know it's not about you. And then anger will go away. You don't even, if you're not able to throw endless love and compassion for their suffering, just at least recognize this has got nothing to do with you. You know? Yeah. What else? Yeah.
I take psych meds to deal with some of my suffering,
Yeah.
and I wonder, would it be considered an intoxicant, but it is a mind altering?
Sure. So the question is, you take psych meds to deal with your what?
Psych condition.
Psych condition. Thank you. I drew a blank there if you said anything or not, but you did. So your question is, you take psych meds to deal with your psych medication, and would it be considered a intoxicant because it's a mind-altering substance in essence, right? So let me just kind of put this into context for those who are new. At the time of the Buddha, they had 227 to 311 precepts. These were guidelines for the community to follow to keep the community safe. It wasn't like the Buddha sat down and said, here's a bunch of rules you all need to follow. These precepts came into play when things happened that caused division, they caused problems, they caused drama, whatever it might be within the community, right? So there were guidelines put into place. I look at precepts, and I'll get into the whole long precept talk right now. I look at precepts as traffic lights, right? Just for sake of time to fly through this. You come to a red light, you have to stop.
No.
Who said yes? Who said yes? There you go. Do you have to stop at the red light?
You have to, well, I guess not.
Oh, I guess not. All right. So what are our options when you come to a red light?
Stop or endanger yourself and others.
Okay, but before we get to the endanger part, what are the options? Stop or
Not stop.
not stop? Okay, and why do you choose to stop?
If you don't want to endanger yourself.
You don't want to endanger yourself or others. What else could happen if you don't stop and run the red light?
You could get a ticket.
You could get a ticket. What else? To all you people who run red lights, I know there's a bunch of you in here. Nothing.
You could.
Nothing.
You could get to where you're going quicker. Thank you for the honesty, right? So many things can happen when you run a red light. But we choose, hopefully, to stop at red lights. We even have a yellow light, which is a warning sign. We choose to stop at these lights because we, for the most part, prefer to not harm ourselves or others or get tickets or things like that. So to me, precepts are traffic lights. These are not rules. This is not if you go against one of these precepts, you're going to some Buddhist hell or anything like that. Again, karma, law of cause and effect. When we do not abide by these precepts, the chances of us causing harm to self and others is greater. I'll get to your question in a minute. The first 5 precepts, to refrain from lying, to refrain from killing, it's actually to refrain from harming, to refrain from stealing, to refrain from sexual misconduct, and to refrain from intoxicants, which is the nature of your question, right? So these are the very first basic 5 that many lay Buddhists will take. Refrain from harming, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, and intoxicants, right? If we refrain from these 5 things, you're going to suffer a whole lot less, and so will others. Really simple, right? So with that being said, the question is around intoxicants. Ultimately, at the time of the Buddha, intoxicants very often in the modern day gets translated very directly, drugs, alcohol. But really, in the Vinaya, what's called the Vinaya, which is the code of conduct, and you can read the Vinaya in what's called the Pali Canon and look at and see the reasons behind all these precepts and why they were there, which is really important. And understand that it wasn't just about drugs or alcohol, it's anything that altered the state of mind. So your question specifically is about psych meds. But how many of you came in here wondering, what about coffee? What about chocolate? What about sugar, caffeine? All these things alter our states of mind. Ultimately, with the precepts, to your question, I think it's really important to ask yourself, what is the intention behind doing it, right? I've worked in populations for 25 plus years, tremendous trauma, combat veterans, active military, combat PTSD, TBI, a lot of people in some pretty rough mental, emotional states, so many of them on medication. And the medication keeps them alive, it keeps them stable, it keeps them from harming themselves, it keeps them from harming others. It actually keeps a lot of safety. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So my suggestion, I never want to give you like it needs to be this or that, but my suggestion, if you're worried about it, which is, or at least curious, which is why the question came up, I wouldn't I don't suggest looking at this and saying, well, I'm going against some Buddhist precept because I'm taking psych meds. Would your life be a lot worse if you weren't taking psych meds? Yeah. As I tell everybody, stay on the meds. I mean that very seriously. I've been working in psych units for probably 30 years. Stay on.
I work as a peer support in a hospital.
Say again?
I work as a peer support in a hospital.
There you go. So you get it. Yeah. I always ask people to begin to cultivate a daily meditation practice and see how it impacts you, but never, substitute meditation for medication, and always follow guidance and advice of medical professionals and doctors, etc. But I don't see that necessarily as violating the precept, because it's not looking to cause harm; it's actually looking to prevent harm. Yeah. Go ahead in the back, and then we'll go here.
Yeah, this is kind of a follow-up question to her question, which is, if someone is really angry with you or upset with you, could you look at the actions that you did, that you directly did, which your own actions is what you're calling karma? Should you look at that and analyze it and see what is it that I did that caused this to actually happen?
What do you think?
I think you probably should.
I think you probably should as well. Years ago, there was, I tell this story often, but there was a woman here, she came in, she was really upset. I could just she was sitting like right over here, I could just feel her anger from the moment she sat down. And then we got through the meditation, she asked a question, and she said that her wife was really upset at her. And she wanted to know how to deal with, the anger she was feeling because her wife was upset with her. And I said, well, without giving me any details, did you do something to cause your wife to be upset with you? And she said, yes. I said, are you even pondering that? And she wasn't. She just wanted to be okay while her wife was upset without looking at the role she played in this situation. So absolutely, we all want to recognize our own actions, our own karma, our own situations, and all of these instances. Absolutely.
It's related.
Yeah.
So, recently had, an interaction, related to work where, I took an action with an intent that was in my mind not, like I was trying to do the right thing. The person didn't receive it that way. And I'm thinking back to what you said about, the other person's reaction being around them suffering.
Sure.
I'm certain had I in the moment said, wow, I'm really sorry you're suffering,
Yeah.
they would have throat punched me or something.
Oh, definitely.
Like that's not. So I'm curious, because my motive, when looking at my motive, truly, I honestly believe was a positive and helpful motive.
Sure.
Just wasn't received that way.
Sure. Yeah, two things. One, there's oftentimes, it's not always best to, express that out loud, obviously. Because we're not, again, you've heard me talk about this, but, we're not coming from this kind of place of this, as I call Buddhist arrogance, where it's like, oh, well, I'm in my love and compassion Buddhist mode and you're not, so I'm just going to tell you how you should be. Obviously, yes. And even in that example, I'm not suggesting that she necessarily throw that back at the individual to point out to the individual their suffering, but to know in your mind and your heart that they are suffering without having to project that or say that can alter how you alter that situation. But to your kind of other comment about knowing, that's always a kind of slippery slope, because you can say like you're in your mind, and I don't even know the situation, I don't want details, but yes, in your mind, I absolutely believe you that you thought best intention, best situation, everybody wins, great, but obviously they didn't. So ultimately, it doesn't matter how you felt about it,
Right.
how right or good or well-intended it was. For you, it was perfect. But there's other people involved. And so yes, all we can do is come back to our intention, and at the same time know that our intention is not always going to be received with the same beauty or the same grace or the same whatever that we are trying to express it with. And also, the kind of from that Buddhist arrogance standpoint, like the more we're around this stuff, the more you learn about loving kindness and compassion, and you hear about forgiveness and understanding and peace, all this kind of stuff that maybe you're trying to integrate into your life. That doesn't elevate you. Again, this is not to your situation, just to anyone. That doesn't elevate you to all of a sudden think like, okay, well, I'm above you now, because now I practice loving kindness. They don't care. And that's, these aren't things to like throw, again, this is not you. These are not things to like throw at people, because that's just as nasty as anything else. So see how it impacts you, how it affects you, and then try to have the wisdom in each situation. So I'm going to come back to my best intention, but even in that moment, you don't know how they're going to receive it. And then when they don't receive it well, then you get to practice again. Well, here was my best intention. They didn't receive it well. What can I do quietly in my own mind and heart to try to keep things calm and steady? And it's not always easy, Yeah. What else? Yeah. We'll go here and then in the back. Go ahead.
How do you, I know how to, how can I word this? I know how to practice patience, I know how to have patience and give people grace, etc. But how do you,
And what?
and give people grace.
Okay.
But how do you, I'm gonna say it the best way I can. How can you get patience experience points?
Yeah. No, I love that question, because the question around patience often, and whenever I talk about the Paramitas, which are, Paramita loosely translates to perfection, but it's the practice of the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas are enlightened beings. It's just this idea of going through our lives and practicing these 6 perfections to suffer less and help others suffer less. And the 6 practices are generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. This Bodhisattva, the statue up here, Samantapadra, the 6 tusks represent those 6 paramitas: generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. So I talk about those constantly. And anytime I come to the practice of patience, I say it differently, but almost always will say, you don't cultivate patience by reading another book on patience. You cultivate patience by putting yourselves in situations that require patience. It's the only way, to me, as a practice, to get better at something. Right? Avoiding things is not being patient, but throwing yourself into the fire, so to speak. So do you have a family member that bothers you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever talk to them on the phone?
All the time.
All the time. Okay. And how long are these conversations typically?
Anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so you're able to kind of draw out a conversation with somebody who's. Does the 5-minute conversation end briefly because you just are done?
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
I can't say that I do lose patience occasionally.
Yeah. So my point is, often with family members, colleagues, whatever it might be, if you want to practice patience, put yourself in situations where it's required. So if you have a family member or situation, obviously safety is important first and foremost. So as long as you're safe, but if you have a situation that all of a sudden you're on the phone and you're patient, you've been tested and you've been pushed and you're like done, stay on the phone. 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, right? To me, patience is just forgiveness. These are all just muscles that we strengthen. These emotions, we strengthen just like any other muscle.
Well, trust me, I have a really good gym where to practice that.
Well, there you go. But that's how you practice. Putting yourself in situations where constantly around places where people are doing things that you don't like. Just stay there.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's it. Yeah. Hand in the back somewhere.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Some patience, you go.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Yeah.
I would like to hear your thoughts about the ceremony in the air. Is there such a thing as that? I'm familiar with it, but I know some of the stories, but I'd be curious to know.
The ceremony in the air,
Yeah,
is that like a Buddhist thing?
yeah. My understanding is that it was the final life of the Buddha, in which he transferred his knowledge and teachings to his disciples, Shariputra, like being one of them. And I'm just curious about that moment, what you think about it.
Are you talking about Shakyamuni Buddha, Siddhartha, who became the Buddha, and so you lost me on, so Sariputra, one of the disciples.
Correct.
I'm not familiar with the ceremony in the air.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Okay.
I'm also, very limited to the schools and practices of Buddhism that I was taught very specifically in a Taiwanese culture, and but the ceremony in the air, I'm not familiar, but I will look it up and get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not familiar. And what was the last part you said about the last life?
It was the final moment.
You talking about when he died?
Yeah, that's at least my understanding. It was when he died. And it's very similar to, I could say, Pentecost in Christianity, where the Holy Spirit had gone to the 12 apostles. And in this case, it's a very fantastical story.
Sure. Yeah, like Alex tells a lot of Buddhist stories, but all I can say is, my knowledge and recognition of him at the moment of death was he was 80 years old. He'd eaten some food that it was bad. It was kind of poisonous and it was bad, but his health was deteriorating anyways. It was his time. So he consumed this food, and then they all gathered around. He gave kind of this final talk, and the closest disciples were there, and he laid down and he was on his right side. So that image, if you've all seen, a lot of people just call it the sleeping Buddha. It's actually called the Nirvana Buddha. It's him at the moment of death. And what he did was he gave his last teaching, and then part of their worry was, who's going to teach us now? And I'll close with this thought. And he said they were worried about who was going to teach him, or who was going to teach them now. And he said, I've taught you for 45 years. In essence, what else could I tell you, right, that you haven't already heard? And he said, be a light unto yourself and strive on with diligence. And then he passed away. I'll come back to that in a minute. To me, I always find this to be one of the most profound teachings, because it's like, here's this enlightened person, or just a real wise person, and they've been teaching for 45 years. What's the last thing he's going to say? I put a lot of meaning to that. And he said, be a light. I've taught you everything you need to know. You already know. That's why I say it kind of jokingly, but that's why to me, Intro to Buddhism, basic Buddhist teachings, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, 6 Paramitas. Like, what more do we need to know? It's all right there. Suffering, the cause of suffering, the ending of suffering, and the path. Correct views, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. There's your Eightfold Path. And the 6 Paramitas, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. That's it. If you've never heard that before, you have now heard that. Now you just have to practice that and be diligent. The problem with modern day Buddhist stuff is everybody's like, okay, well, that's good. Now what? Like, what's next? What more can I know? What other languages? What other cultures? What other locations? What other lineages? What other teachings? Just practice that diligently every single moment of your life. That's the practice. And then they say, when he died, he entered into what's called parinirvana, which is nirvana without remainder, meaning that was his last life. That he'd had countless thousands of lifetimes prior to being born as Siddhartha Gautama, which he became called the Buddha. And it said that was his last life. There was no more rebirth. But as far as that specific one, are you familiar with is there an Era Sutra? Okay. my back, I thought I'd get some support here from Elena, but 0 for 2 up here,
I
so.
will know next time.
Yeah, but we will both do research on it and get back to you on the air teaching. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. Any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, a few quick announcements before y'all head out. Thank you for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different practices going on led by different people from a different Buddhist tradition. Every Thursday, 4:30, we do, I think, one of the best things around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals, also known as peanut butter and jelly, and we feed people who sleep on the street. So anytime you think your life sucks and you lack gratitude, show up here at 4:30. We make sandwiches for an hour, and then we head downtown and we feed people. Couple things out of the ordinary, just schedule-wise. This next Saturday, we'll have a half day of silence. So it's 4 hours of silence from 8 to noon. So if you've never done 20 minutes of silence is tough. I always suggest people try it for 4 hours. It's not 4 hours straight. It's a 20-minute sit within about a 5-minute break. There's a walking meditation, a cleaning meditation. But it's a really beautiful practice that we do the first Saturday of every month from 8 to noon. It starts out up here, and then it finishes in the downstairs meditation hall. So again, if you've never done a longer meditation practice, it's really a beautiful thing to experience. Also, one last thing, Saturday, July 19th, we will again be marching in the San Diego Pride Parade. If you go to there's a little flyer outside the wall there, or above the shoe rack on the wall, or go to the website, top right corner, they'll say Pride Parade 2025. Takes 2 minutes if you want to march with us, 10 a.m. that Saturday morning. We'll be marching in the parade. And then Monday morning, we will be helping to clean up Balboa Park after the festival. So it's quite a festive 2 days. And the park gets pretty gross after 2 days. So we'll be volunteering from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. 2 shifts. If you don't want to do all day, 7 a.m. to noon or noon to 5. But again, go to the website, all that stuff there. It'll take you 2 minutes. Obviously, we'd love to have everybody marching in the parade, but we also really need people on that Monday to help clean up the park. So otherwise, yeah, thanks for being here, and be well. If you can help close the windows, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.